Okay, so now we're recording. All right. So this week, what I want everybody to do is I want everybody to finish up your package, your box, I should say, not package, but box, your box composition. And I want you to do a label design for your bottle, whatever that bottle might be. The things that I want you to think about is take a look, number one and number two, create a visual hierarchy that leads the end user in a logical order to all sides of the package. Something that's very important for all of you to understand is that when you're working with a box has 6 sides. It has a top and a bottom, 2 sides, a front and a back. So there's like 6 sides. And even though the box basically faces out at you and you look at the front of the box, there are still 5 more sides. And depending upon the type of box, or I should say the type of product, you're going to need to put information on all sides of your box, your package. One of the things that I highly recommend that everybody does, and I've mentioned this in emails and I think I put it in announcements, take a trip down to a supermarket or to a pharmacy and take a look at a box that's similar. Doesn't have to be exactly the same, but find a box that's similar to the product that you're illustrating the box for. And look at the kind of information that you find on that box and use that information as a guide. I'm not saying you have to copy it exact, but usually when you look at a box, it will give you a pretty good idea of the real stuff that you find on a box, obviously, because it's a real box. And these things are things that you're going to want to put into your box. You want the box to look as real as possible. The information can be fake information. The address doesn't have to be a real address. The name of the company doesn't necessarily have to be the real name of the company, but it should look real. It should look like it's coming from a real company, and it should be handled in much the same way. If you're looking at wine, like for instance, you'll find that wine boxes usually have a content, alcohol content by, I guess it's by weight or by, how do they do it? It's been a while since I made a wine box. I think it's by weight, alcohol content by weight. I think that's what
I believe that's right. I believe that's right. It's the percentages by the weight of the bottle.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. So anyway, that has to be on the box. It doesn't say that in the assignment, but it has to be on a box. Now, again, if you listen to what I'm saying, just stop into a market or stop into a pharmacy and look at the box that you're trying to create and see some of the things that are on that box. See how they handle the top of a box. I mean, if you don't put too much on the bottom of a box, that's okay, because usually the bottoms are not as important to the overall scheme of things. Again, it depends on the box. Sometimes they are. The box sides are usually important. The front and back are very important. And the top. Those are the surfaces that you tend to focus on. And remember, the box usually stands up either in a box on the shelf or it stands up with other boxes stacked together on the shelf. So it's kind of important for you to consider that when you put your graphics on the box. I'm going to do a review shortly of one of the other students, and I've deliberately used his old box submission because I wanted to show you guys something about how you place elements on the box and what you should and shouldn't do. So, I mean, I'm not judgmentally, I already talked to him about this and he's actually corrected it, but I just wanted to use it as an example of some of the things that you should be aware of when you do it. We'll get to that shortly. So, yeah, so you're going to create a visual hierarchy. And again, like I say, the visual hierarchy is the front of the box would be the top level of the hierarchy. The sides of the box probably would be your next, because they would be encountered just before you get to the back. I mean, if you pick a box up and you start looking at it, what you do is, if anything, you're going to turn the box. And as you turn the box, you're going to see the sides. Then you're going to see the back. So, you know, these are the things that you need to think about. And you should have something on these surfaces. And the best way to figure out what you want to put on those surfaces is to go and take a look at somebody else's box. That's the best way to do it. I did that with my box, and I created my box based on what I thought would work for my box, which was the hot sauce. And, you know, we'll talk more about my box a little later on. Create and develop an original concept that targets the end user, all right? Which obviously that's what you're doing. You're designing this. You're targeting the end user. You're trying to create something that will impress the end user and entice them to buy your product. That's another good reason why you should go and take a look at boxes of similar type to the product that you're working on, because usually there are a bunch of boxes that you're going to find, and you'll be able to take a look at a couple of them and see what the similarities are between boxes and see what the difference are between the boxes. There's going to be things about boxes that are different because they're coming from different companies. But I think you're going to find that there's a certain level of standardization of elements. And it's kind of important that you get to understand that. All right? Any questions? When I gave you feedback, that feedback is an essential part of this week's assignment, because what you're going to do is you're going to develop your final week's composition based on two things. That is the execution of a well-designed package finalized by you, and the instructions that I gave. And I think almost every single person that submitted something last week got some kind of an instruction from me as to what they might want to consider doing. And I think many cases I mentioned that I would like you to go in and I'd like you to take a look at a box in one of the stores that I mentioned, either a liquor store or a market or a pharmacy, so that you can really get a sense of what kind of elements you're going to find on that package. And again, feedback is very important, and it's one of the ways you'll improve your design. And I'm not trying to hinder your progress at all. What I'm trying to do is suggest to you, and that's another reason why I have the critique tonight. I got 3 people that have submitted something for that critique. The critiques are also meant to help with this process by me discussing the work that you did so far. And not only will it help the person who submitted the work for that critique, but it'll also help other people who view the critique, because I'll be talking about things that all of you should consider by virtue of looking at somebody's piece. The transition from a preliminary idea to the final print-ready file requires careful attention to how detailed elements to relate to one another and how these relationships interact with the overall visual communication. Very important that you keep that in mind when you're working on your boxes. You know, how does that box function? The person's going to see it. They're going to get an impression from the front. So obviously, the front of the box is what you're going to be seeing most likely. That represents your greatest opportunity to grab the attention of the person and to basically pull them in and get them to grab the box to take a look a little bit further. Once they do that, and if you take a look at this picture, here the woman is. Basically, she's looking at a product. She stopped and pulled it off the shelf because something about that jar, that label, is what she wants. And you see that she's actually looking at the label and reading the label. So, I mean, it is really important, people, unless somebody has purchased the item many times and they're just grabbing it off the shelf because they're already familiar with the label. I mean, it's still important, but the real importance of having a unique and compelling label or box is for those people who are being introduced to the product for the first time, getting a new customer. Very important. And of course, new customers, if the product is good, if the price is right, and if they're drawn in by the packaging, hopefully will become continuing users. That's what you're looking for. All right. Packages are comprised of many elements. This is one of the important things for all of you to understand. Many of you submitted boxes that were devoid of elements. I know that, you know, you want the thing to look elegant and clean, but there is a practical side of this whole thing as well, and it's really important for you to understand this. Even though you make a package really elegant and really nice, there are things that you need to put on the boxes. It's very important. And that's why I'm saying one of the best ways for you to get a real good sense of what would be on a typical box would be to go somewhere and take a look at a couple of boxes. You should have no trouble. I mean, if you go to a liquor store, if you're doing the wine bottle, wine comes in boxes very, very commonly. You're going to find boxes of wine very common, so you'll have no trouble with that one. You will also find that cologne or aftershave and things like that tend to come in boxes too. One of the ones that I'm pretty sure of is Old Spice. I think Old Spice comes in a box. There's a couple of different ways it comes, but I think they have boxes. That's one that you could look for, but I think you'll find others. And there's ladies' colognes that you'll find that has boxes. And even if the box isn't the same shape as your box, you're not really concerned with the shape as much as you're concerned with the elements that you find on the box. That's really what you're looking for. So again, very important for you to go and do this, because it's going to help you come up with a number of visual elements and the placement of those elements, which are going to help you to build a box that makes sense as a box. This is a building process. You're building a box, and part of the building process is the ornamentation of the actual box itself. So keep that in mind. I mean, you know, putting one or two things on a box doesn't necessarily mean you've actually built a box. You have to know the kind of things that should go on a box. And what I'm telling you to do, the easiest way to deal with this is to go into the store and take a look at a couple of boxes and see the kind of things that are on the boxes and choose an array of those things to put on the box for believability. Is that okay, Tamara? You fairly clear with that?
Yes.
Okay. Will you have any trouble doing that, you think?
No, I don't think so.
Good. Okay. Yeah, so a great label design or a great box face, the front of a box, is similar to a great book cover. It's informational, attractive, and inviting. That's the whole thing. I mean, look at the words they're choosing to use here. Attractive, inviting, but also informational. I mean, you got to realize boxes have to have information. That's the whole purpose of a box. I mean, okay, so the real purpose of the box is to house the product so that the product doesn't get damaged. But the reality is that, you know, when you're dealing with a box, you're also dealing with an avenue or a vehicle that you can use to put forth information. So it's very important that you consider that when you make your box. Visual hierarchy grabs attention and aids consumer comprehension. So one other thing that you need to think about is that there is a visual hierarchy to elements on your box. They don't all occupy the same level. There are things that are of greater importance, and there are things that are of lesser importance. And, you know, again, when you're dealing with this, you're dealing with things like your principles of graphic design to help you to figure out this level of hierarchy. You know, you can use things like size, scale, positioning, all the different elements that you would use in other graphic design venues. Yeah. Think of how packaging attracts the attention at a glance by the use of color, unique graphics, typography, and imagery. So, you know, again, color, very important. The proper color, the proper types of color for the product that you're using. You know, unique graphics. you want your graphics to be unique. Now, you have elements that are given to you. Your logos, the type for the logos, they're given. So, I mean, you basically are going to use them, but you can apply color to them. I mean, they're not telling you that you can't, and you certainly don't want to necessarily just use all black for your logos. That would be very dull, and that would certainly not be the correct thing to do. So think in terms of color. If you're going to include other graphics, make sure that the unique graphic that you choose will work with the graphic theme that you have for your logos. It's very important that they work together. They shouldn't fight each other, but they should work harmoniously. Typography. Find typography that will work with the typography that you're using in your logos. Remember, you're being given a logo. So the logo or the package graphic that they're given for the logo, the black and white graphic, that thing has typography associated with it. You want to use something that will work with that typography. It's not just basically you going in and picking any old typography or something that you really like. Don't do that. Look at it from the standpoint of what's appropriate, not so much what I like. I mean, obviously you're going to want to like it, but what I'm trying to say, there's a larger thing to think about, and that is it appropriate? That's really what's important. What's going to draw the consumer to your package? Your color, your overall layout, the appropriateness and uniqueness of your graphics, your color, and typography. These are the things that will help them to make a decision to purchase it. Also, the information that you give them. It's very important that this information helps make the choice for them to choose your product. That's really what it's all about. So it's imperative at this stage of the design process to make only changes that the client has requested. So again, what I'm saying to you is my changes for you were largely what I put in on an individual level, but I do make this as an open request to everybody in the class, and that is to get out of the chair and take a walk, a ride, or whatever down to either a market or to a pharmacy or a liquor store, depending upon your product. Pull a couple of boxes off the shelf, look them over very carefully, and make some notes. Make a sketch. Do all the things that we have talked about doing in this course, and come up with some additional things to make sure that when you submit your final layout and mock-up to me, you have something that is a believable looking box and label for your product. Any questions, Tamara? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. For this assignment, you'll finalize a detailed composition of your package design. Very, very tight presentation of how the final product will look when it's printed. It should be well crafted, and take effort to make sure everything is exactly as the client agreed to in the final rough. So basically, whatever instructions I gave you, consider them very carefully, and also consider what I'm telling you now. This is where the feedback and visual hierarchy, color, and imagery need to come together to obtain a final approval, which will be ultimately my final approval. Okay? So all suggested changes for week 2 must be made. Review the feedback I gave you, and tonight when I talk about these for the 3 that have submitted, consider the feedback that I'm giving to them. And as a matter of fact, everybody in the room, if you listen to my critique of the 3 boxes, I'll talk about some of the things that I see that are wrong and some of the things that are right. And you should think about that when you actually do your final work. Implement all changes. If you have not completed week 2's assignment yet, then this part of the grade will be 0 points. I'm not going to be able to grade you for that. I'm going to have to knock the grade a little bit, okay? So I just, I caution everybody. Of course, Tamara, you've been away, and I will not do that with you, all right? But it would be a good idea to try to get me something, if you can, soon, so that I can maybe give you an additional boost up on it, all right?
Yeah, I got it. I'm gonna actually work on it like tonight and all through tomorrow, and hopefully I can get it in sometime during the day.
All right, just send me an email when you do. I'll go in and I'll look at it right away. I'll give you some thoughts, and I'll send it back to you, and you can consider that as well. What are you doing? Do you know which one are you doing?
I'm doing the Chateau Vineyard.
Oh, you're doing the wine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You should have no trouble. You should have absolutely no trouble going to a liquor store and finding boxes to look at. Don't look at just one. Look at several and see what kind of elements you find. Look at all the surfaces and see how they orient the graphics and what's on every surface. And I'm not saying copy it exact, but use it as a basis for your own creation. Okay.
Okay, so the box is for week 3, but the general outline box is for week 2, correct?
So wait a minute. Say it again.
The I guess the kind of finalized box.
Week 3.
It's week 3.
This week is the final week, is where you're doing your final composition and label design. This is the week you're doing that. But what I'm saying is, I'll give you a little bit of flexibility because you were away, but you got to get it into me so I can critique it. That's all I'm saying. And it can be rough. You don't have to pull it all together. Just get it basically roughed out and where you think you're going. And then if you want, in your notes, put down any notes that you want me to consider so I know basically what you're proposing, and I'll look at what you submitted visually and I'll give you some points to consider, and then you can move on to this final.
Because week 2 is the outline, the box outline that we were doing in class.
Yeah, but you're also supposed to produce a rough draft as well. If you read carefully, you'll see.
Oh, okay.
The 2-part thing where you have to do the box. Yes, but you also have to produce a rough draft, and most everybody did that.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem.
All right. So as far as the label is concerned, you're going to stay obviously with the same product, create a label. The label size is determined by the bottle size, and obviously you could go to this onlinelabels.com for custom label sizes if you want to. You need to follow, I should say, your product package color scheme. So whatever color scheme you're using for your box, you should try to incorporate that same color scheme into your labeling, coordinating it. Now you could maybe go contrast or something like that. You could, you be creative with it, but don't go apples and orange on me. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to stay in one area. You can do something to contrast it, yes, but don't go completely off on a tangent with your product and label, making them look like they don't go together. Somehow or other, make them go together. You can be. I'm trying to give as much flexibility as I can give you, but at the same time, I don't want you to just break free from your packaging scheme with your labeling scheme. I want them to coordinate in some creative way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Got it.
Okay. All right, and again, package color scheme, package typography. I mean, this is somewhat logical, really, because obviously you're going to be doing same product for the same package group. So the graphic elements, correct labeling requirements based on content of the packaging. There's a food labeling guide right there, alcohol beverage guide right there, and perfume cologne labeling guide right there. So Tamara, since you're doing the alcohol beverage labeling guide, that's what you want. You want that one, right? Yep. And the submission requirements, obviously, is you're going to create a multi-page PDF document as both the packaging design and the labeling design. You have any problem making a multi-page PDF document? You know how to do that? You're working in Illustrator,
yeah.
Everybody. We're working in Illustrator, right? You know that.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any problem making a multi-page. Now, are we doing like two complete different artboards for the package design and the label design, or are we like
I would do two separate. I would do two separate
Okay.
artboards. I would. Yeah, I would do that. I'd put your packaging layout on, and again, this is going to still show, you're going to still show, I'll show you in a minute. I'll get to that and show you how I did mine. But yeah, you're going to do it on two separate artboards. Do you have any trouble making two artboards? I mean, there's two ways you can do it. You can actually open up your document, and when you create your document, you can create two artboards right there when you create your document. Or you can open up the page panel, and you can add a page to add an additional page or an artboard. I keep saying page. This isn't InDesign. You can open up your artboard panel, and you could create a second artboard there, or you could create two artboards when you open up the actual file from the beginning. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah, because I for a second there I was confused that pages are InDesign, artboards are Illustrator. Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
On the same page.
Yeah. So really, I guess that's pretty much it. Now, as far as your assessment is concerned, if I'm not mistaken, it's another one of these little quizzes. So be prepared for that. I know they're a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, in my master's degree program, I'm getting quizzed on things, and I just really messed one of them up really bad. So when you guys go in there and you take these exams, don't feel bad. I'm taking them, and I'm having just as much trouble with them as you are. I promise you, they're horrible.
I couldn't take week 2 assessment. It locked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it locked before I could take it. So
Did you take it past the deadline?
Well, when I was able to come back to try to take it, it was already locked.
Send me an email, and I'll see if I can ask I'll ask my associate dean to open it for you, explain that you were away, and
Okay.
maybe let you take it. Send me an email later on that, okay?
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. What else? Is there anything else? Anything else? Tamara, anything else?
No, everything is pretty straightforward. And if I get a little hiccup, then I'll just come back and watch the lecture again, or shoot you an email.
Okay. Did you ever watch the videos that I created, the parts of the main video that I pulled out? Did you take a look at them?
No, not yet, but that's part of what I'm going to do when I start
okay.
actually doing my work. Yeah.
Okay. I just wondered whether you saw them and whether you thought that they helped. I went to the trouble of pulling out just a segment on doing the layout for the box, and I also pulled out the section that shows how I evolved my bottle. So instead of having to go through the entire 2-hour thing, all you had to do really was go in and take a look at that one little section, and it's a lot more comprehensive. You don't have to, work so hard.
I have a question, and I haven't really figured out how to do it, and I've had the lynda.com videos as part of some of my other courses.
Yeah.
How are we able to save those videos so that we can go back and watch them? Because I know once the classes are over, you can't really get back to the videos that we have on the list for the class.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can save those?
I don't know. I couldn't. You know what I would do? Do you have an associate dean? You know who your associate dean is, right?
Yeah, I know who he is.
Why don't you ask him that? He would be better. He would be better to answer that. I don't know. I don't think you can, but he would tell you for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's. I don't think you can is what I would tell you, but I mean. He may say, "Oh, he's wrong." What kind of bird you got? I hear the bird.
Oh, we have a cockatiel.
A cockatiel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on then. Any other questions?
No more questions.
Okay. All right. So let's go to. This is a submission from Mr. Henriksen. Okay, and Mr. Henriksen did a bottle, and he's got a couple of little problems with this. There's a couple of little things that aren't quite right. And
I could spot one right off. He's got the whole stroke on the font, and that makes it really hard to read it. I mean, it just disappears completely.
you're talking about right here?
Right.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was going to go over tonight. I'm going to show you again the right way to apply a stroke to lettering. I think a lot of people still haven't quite got that. Just so that you understand, let me open this up so you can see something here. Hold on, let me get this open. Okay, this is what he first submitted to me. Now, here's the problem. I want to explain this to you. Can you see the red font right there? The font that has the red or the pink behind it?
It looks orange.
Or orange. The type is orange, but you see the background's kind of pink?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. You see the word wanted?
Yes.
You see how the wanted is sticking way over onto the other panel?
Yes.
Okay. The reason that that's happening is this is in Adobe Illustrator. And he did not create outlines when he submitted this to me. He just basically submitted as a PDF. Now, when I open this up in PDF, you see how the fonts display perfectly?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know why that happens?
No.
PDF, just so that you understand, this is kind of important for graphic designers to know this. Adobe PDF has the ability to subset fonts. So if you are using a particular font, the PDF file format will automatically capture the elements of the font that are being used in the PDF so it can display it properly. Okay? The moment you try to open a PDF in Adobe Illustrator, which you can do, you can open this up in Adobe Illustrator. Since Adobe Illustrator is a vector file, and it wants to treat this like a piece of vector art, and it doesn't have the same capacity that Adobe PDF has, what it's going to do is it's going to throw error messages for fonts that are not on your computer. So Mr. Henriksen is using fonts that I don't have on my computer. And that is why when you go into my Adobe Illustrator, some of his fonts have altered on me because I don't have them on my computer. And it's basically putting some kind of a substitute font in there. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, but I do have a question about that.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so whenever we're submitting our PDFs,
Yeah.
if you don't have a font, a font family or style that we have on our personal in our personal repertoire, and you don't
On
have
your computer.
yeah, and you don't have it on yours,
Right.
will it always come out this way?
It will come out this way. Again, let me go back to this. This is a PDF. This PDF is being viewed in Adobe Acrobat Pro. This is the Acrobat Pro. This is not Illustrator. Acrobat Pro can take a PDF, and because PDF will capture the fonts that are being used, Acrobat Pro will show the fonts correctly. And as a matter of fact, if you send this to a printer, the printer can use this file to print from because all the data that's required, the fonts and everything are there. He can separate this and print from this. The problem occurs when you get out of Acrobat Pro into Illustrator. And you can open a PDF up in Illustrator, and if you save it the correct way, I can convert that back to an Adobe Illustrator file that I can work on. The problem is, once I do that, Adobe Illustrator isn't Acrobat Pro, and it doesn't have the capacity to capture those fonts. So when it gets in here, those fonts basically disappear. and they are replaced by some sort of a font substitute. So whenever you see different fonts in here, and you see quite a few of them, that's different, this is different, the Wild Bill isn't because that's a graphic, that's different, this is different. All the things that he created using his selected font get substituted because I don't have those fonts on my computer. Now, what you can do, if you want, is before you submit this to me, any font that you're like, see where it says gourmet hot sauce? Net weight 3 ounces, gourmet hot sauce up here. Can you see when I sit on top of it? Can you see the lines under the baseline of the type?
Yes.
Okay, that's telling you that that's live type. All right? If you had in your computer, when you were on your computer, if you had selected that and go up into the type menu and create outlines, have you ever done that before?
Yes.
Yeah, if you had taken that font before you submitted it to me, made a duplicate copy, because you don't want to do this to your working file, but you'll create a duplicate file. So if see where this is DES-244 assignment to mhendricks.ai.
Yes.
Okay, if he had saved this as DES-244 underscore assignment alt underscore mhendrickson.ai, and if he had created outlines on all those fonts, and then submitted them to me, because they were no longer active fonts but just graphic shapes, all of his type elements would look the way they should look. So that's one way to do it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense now. Now, I guess my other question is, like the SKU barcode and the nutrition labels, are those were those provided in a zip file, or are those is that something that we have to go and create?
There's a barcode link. There's a barcode link. You can go to the barcode link and you can generate a barcode. And if you take a look, I think it's part of my lesson last week, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a barcode link. I believe it was last week, where you can go in and you can generate the barcode. Or if you're too lazy to do that, you could go online and you could look up barcodes, do a Google search of barcodes, and then go to the graphics, the images, and find a nice big barcode and bring it in and just use that. That's also acceptable. So you can either do a Google search to find a barcode, which would be easy enough to do, or use the link for the barcode generator and go in and generate a barcode, and you'll be all ready to go. Okay? As far as nutritional facts, there should be a link to a nutritional facts information for your box. So you should be able to go in, and I think there's information for food, which is nutritional. There's for liquor, which is, I think it's something to do with liquor. And then there's something to do with the ingredients or something for the cologne or whatever, perfume. So you should be able to find links that will get you that information. Okay.
Got it.
All right. So let's go back to this, because this is what I'm really going to critique on. Okay, so here's his submission. Generally speaking, his submission is not bad. Couple of things right off the bat that I think will help him tremendously. He's using these red wanted postery type things. One of the things that I'm a little concerned about here is they're a little bit big. They get very close to the folds, and that's kind of dangerous. What I would recommend is that he just reduces them. He reduced them just a little bit and make them not so close. You see how the gourmet hot sauce is on the top? You see the amount of space that you got between the right there where the box cuts and the type. See, there's like a little space there. See where I'm looking at? And over by the G, see between the G and where the trim line is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's much better. You need to have space more like that. His space is fine for this. His space is okay for this. It could be a little bit smaller. This is okay down here. That's too tight, and that's too tight. So he really needs to just make a couple of little minor adjustments. His nutritional information is probably a little bit bigger than it needs to be. It could be a little bit smaller. He also, his barcode's a little bit too big. It should be a little bit smaller. You want to leave a little bit of breathing space between the elements on the page and the folds or the trim area. Whatever is going to stay on the page and not bleed off the page should have a certain amount of clearance from either the trim or the fold area. What do you think? Is that clear what I'm saying to you, Tamara?
Right, because if it's too close to the trim or to the fold, when you start putting the box together physically, then some of the elements of the design is going to get lost.
It could. No, it's not. It won't. It's not that it'll get lost. But what happens, just so that you really understand, is they're not just making 1 or 2 or 3 boxes. They're making probably 5,000, 6,000 or more of these boxes. So this is a mass-produced product. And what happens is, they're slamming these things out. They're running through a machine, and the machine is, literally die cutting them out, and then it goes into another place where it folds it all up, and then another place where it glues it, and then folds it up. And through all these different processes, there's a little bit of play. And I'm not talking about a lot of play, but there's a little tiny bit of play that happens between box to box. And when you have close tolerances like this, it's very easy for the box to go off ever so slightly. And then you've got panels that are on folds and, sloppy boxes. And I mean, you just don't want sloppy boxes on the shelf. I mean, the truth of the matter is, this is all about getting a product that somebody is going to look at and be impressed with and buy. So you want to allow yourself a little bit of leeway when you create these boxes to make sure that you don't have a problem with your product spilling over onto a fold, or even worse, onto another panel. Is that clear? Does that make sense what I'm talking about here?
Yes, and that's what I meant by some of the elements of the design would get lost.
Yeah. It's not that they'll get lost, but they'll end up in a bad position. Like, for instance, if this box here moved over slightly, the fold would hit that line, and then of course you'd have a gap over there that would look shoddy. And the reason that it would look shoddy is because the box that you're using, this Wild Bill Gourmet Hot Sauce, is a little bit too big. You know what I mean? It should be a little bit smaller. All these elements should be a little tiny bit smaller so that you have, see, like I say, this has got some nice clearance here. This has got what you want right there. That's the kind of clearance you want, something more like that. This is a little bit tight. You could give it a little more clearance, and this copy really don't need to be that big. It could be a little bit smaller. Believe it or not, his Nutritional Facts has got good clearance here, and his bottle has good clearance here. So this is not a problem. That's not a problem. This is a small problem. This is really not a problem. That's a problem. And this net weight isn't really a problem, but this panel is, and that panel is. So again, it's just adjustments, really, to make this thing fit better. Visually, it looks okay. I mean, I like his colors. I like the general flow of what he did. It sort of works okay. I got one thing that I'm going to show you how to do that I think you might find will be interesting. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a minute. Other than that, I think he looks pretty good here. He did originally, if you take a look at this one, he did originally have this weirdness going on out here with this thing. And I told him about that. I don't know why he had that out there. It doesn't make any sense. What he wanted to do, and he fixed it here, what you wanted to do here is you wanted to make sure that your glue flap did not have color over the whole thing. And what you wanted to do is you just wanted to make sure that your color bled onto the glue flap, so when you fold the glue flap, if it goes off a little bit, like for instance, if you don't have color, if that color goes right to that fold there, and if they fold it bad, you may have white showing on the front of your panel, and that wouldn't look really good. Okay. The other problem, so do you understand that? And he actually still has too much of this color on the glue flap. This should go right to that bleed line right there. He should back this off a little bit, right to that bleed line right there. You know, he doesn't need a lot. He just needs to have some on that glue flap. The glue flap can't have printing on it because you want that glue flap for gluing. And a lot of times what will happen is the glue that they're using won't work right when you have a printed surface. It repels it and it'll make the box fall apart. Any questions about that?
No, no question.
He's got one big problem on here. And before I tell you what it is, I'm going to see. Can you tell me what you think his big problem is? Look at the panels, and he's got one big problem, and it's a big one. You have any idea what it might be? It's not a problem if you don't. Look at the 4 center panels. What's wrong with those 4 center panels?
It looks like they're not aligned.
No, they're aligned okay. What it is, I'll tell you, because you might not know this. He has this panel here, which he's identifying as the front panel, which is fine. Okay, I have no problem with that. So this is the front panel, right? This would be a side panel, right?
Right.
This would be a back panel, right? Front,
right.
back, side, right?
Right.
Okay, so
oh, the side panels are different. Shouldn't the side panels at least be kind of like the same?
No, they're the same size. It's just that what you want to do is you want to have the front and the back opposing one another, and you want to have each side opposing one another. So how that would work is if this is the front, that would be a side. This would then be the back, because if you folded it, this would be opposite this. This would be to the right of this, and this would be to the left of this. You get it?
Okay, say that again.
This would be the front. This would be, if you were looking at it straight in, this is the front. That's the right side. That would be the back if you're folding it around. And then that would be the left side right there. Did that make sense?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so here's the problem. The problem is this is your front. This should be opposite on the back. You don't want to have this panel and then this panel side by side. It would look weird. This should be your front. This should be your back. This should be one side. This should be another side. See what I'm talking about?
Yeah, okay, I get it. I get it.
So one of the things he has to do is he has to rearrange his sides of or his box panels a little bit. This panel should be the front. It's fine. This is okay as a side. This here should switch with this. This should go here. This should go there. So it's front, back, side, side, top, bottom. Okay?
Okay, got it. So the first panel and the third panel should be opposing. So which means the third panel and the fourth panel should switch places.
Yeah, these two guys here just should reverse. This guy here should go here. The Wild Bill's Gourmet Hot Sauce on red panel should go here. The bottle should go here. Because then this would be front, and that would be back. That would be a side, and that would be a side. When you folded the box up, this would be on the front side, this would be on the back side, the opposite side. This would be on the side, and this would be on the other side. Okay? So this would be the front. This would be here on the back.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what it is. So basically for him, it's just a matter of adjusting the panels and adjusting a few of his elements. I like some of the things that he did here. He went to the trouble of creating this interesting background pattern. I really like that. He used brown, and then I don't know whether he created this by hand or whether he found a texture somewhere and he utilized that texture. But however he did it, it looks really good. But I wanted to show a way that I could even make it look a little bit better. And that's what I'm going to do in a minute. Oh, and by the way, he did a fairly nice job revolving his bottle. I'm a little disappointed that he didn't go to the trouble of applying his label to the actual bottle. I'm kind of disappointed that he didn't do that. It would have been nice if he had actually applied that to the bottle itself. He didn't do that. I understand why he didn't do it, because it probably he wasn't able to get the bottle to go transparent. Actually, what I think he did, so I think he actually has the bottle behind this. I think the bottle's behind this. This is in front of the bottle. So I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. If I don't get to it tonight, actually, I'm going to talk about it Wednesday night, how to do this properly. I may not get to it tonight. I'll try, but if not, Wednesday we'll talk about it, okay? But that's something that because I don't like, he's kind of got this thing. What he did was he used an envelope on this, and it doesn't really look that believable. And there's a way that he could do this, and I'm going to show either tonight or Wednesday how to go about doing this, so he can try to do this and get a much more realistic effect. So that's basically it. So let me end with that, and let me go on to the next one. Let me go File, Open, and let me go back up for critique to Bert, and this is Crystal Bert. Okay, so here is Crystal's, and as you can see, Crystal submitted. This is what Crystal submitted, Tamara. She did rotate the box and put the box on. I imagine she did this using the rotate like we talked about. So here's the problem with Crystal's. Basically, she has not used the top of the box. There's nothing on the top of the box. She needs to put something on the top of the box. She didn't put enough on the back of the box. Again, we're talking about a 360-degree orientation. The box is a little bit more simplistic than I would like to see. I think the background gradient's kind of nice on it, but I would really like to see something a little bit more dynamic. And one of the big mistakes that I think she makes, which is a very common mistake for a lot of designers that are starting out, is she used center-aligned text. The center-aligned text in body copy like this doesn't work very well. It doesn't look very good. And it's also a little bit annoying for people to read. So my feeling about this is she'd be much better off to do one of two things: either justify the text or do a flush left rag right and try to make the rag right as tight as possible, and don't use hyphens. So that's what I would have her do with this. She needs to take and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe my critique of her was that she should really go to the store, as I said tonight, take a look at a box that's similar and see the kind of information that goes on a box like this. I understand that, you can make things clean and elegant and simple, but there's a point where you go too far with it. And I think she has gone, it's gone to that point where it's just too far. She needs to actually add some stuff to this box to make the box a little bit more finished. That's really what it is. One other problem with this is if you go back to the principles of graphic design, contrast, there's a slight problem with the contrast of the color of her type against that background. Notice how, especially up in the blue area, that kind of, I guess it's a orangey yellow. What color would you call that, Tamara?
I'd say more of a burnt, kind of an orange.
Burnt orange is probably a pretty good, probably a pretty good burnt orange. But notice how it kind of falls into the background. It doesn't stand off. It doesn't jump out. It doesn't really, you know what I mean? It doesn't jump out at you. it's a contrast problem. That's really what it is. So what she needs to do is she needs to take another look at the colors that she's using and the placement of those colors, because it's affecting contrast. Now, down in this area here, it's not so much of a problem. It's when you get up into here that it becomes a problem, because especially up in this area here, it almost gets hard to read. See what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean, but I did want to make a comment about how simple her box is.
Go
She
ahead.
did a good, she really she did a good job of enclosing the box and making it, you know.
Well, there's a couple of little errors I'm going to talk about in a second there too. Go ahead.
But but my thing is, with most cologne or perfume bottles, they're really, that I've come across anyway, they're really not too embellished. They're usually probably right along the lines of something that she has going on. They're really every cologne or perfume box that I have encountered is really very simple, but sometimes there are different textures to the packaging. Like I know the Dolce & Gabbana light blue perfume bottle.
Yeah.
The packaging is it's almost suede.
Yeah.
But it's still really simple. But the packaging itself is almost suede. So I think I get what you're saying, and it would translate so much better if it was you know, physically, you know, could be physically handled, and maybe put, you know, some kind of a texture or something on it to make it stand out. So I'm with you.
Well, here's the problem though. Here's the problem. There's nothing on the top. That's absolutely no good. Got to have something on the top. There's no doubt about it. And this panel back here, absolutely nothing there. I mean, it's just no client would let that go by. I mean, these people, just don't forget, these people are paying a lot of money for this packaging. And I understand what you're saying about something being elegant. Yeah, you want something to be elegant, but you also want it to be informative. You want it to also have the ability to give them some information. People are going to pick this up and look at it, and they got to figure out what's going on with it. So you do need a few things here. You can't have panels that are completely bare like this. And this panel back here, there's just nothing back there. You know what I mean? Something.
See, and again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. And again, most perfume or cologne bottles that I've seen have basically this same kind of setup, because there isn't a whole lot of like imagery that you could put on a cologne bottle. But but again, like I said, I get exactly what you're saying, that there is something more that she could do. Like even if it's something kind of putting a mini logo or something on the top.
She could if she repeated the Cool Breeze information on the back, it would be better than nothing. You know what I mean? I just don't think having a back panel like that with nothing works. I don't think it works, and I don't think that works either. I definitely don't.
No, see, and I agree with you. I agree.
So something has to be. She has to think about this. This is part of the assignment. Is, you know, creatively think about this and decide what she needs to do to fix the fact that there's nothing on the top. I mean, these would be things a designer would encounter and would have to defend. Why is there nothing on the top of the box? Why is there absolutely nothing there? You mean we can't come up with something to put up there? You mean we can't come up with something to put there? That's what these people who are stakeholders would be asking. And, you know, it's like, you'd have to defend that, and to just say, well, the other ones are elegant and they don't have it, is not a particularly, you know, compelling argument for it. There needs to be a better argument than that, or you need to somehow or other come up with something. You know, maybe what she would do is just take that nice device there, that one little piece, and just blow that up and put it up there. See what I mean? Even if you did something like that. Yeah. And, you know, maybe instead of just putting the entire thing, maybe putting Cool Breeze up there and some other little graphic, you know, you could do something like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying there needs to be something that's going on in that space up there and on that space right there, because it's too much valuable and expensive packaging space being wasted with nothing. That's what it really comes down to. And that's what you would be told as a graphic designer.
And I completely get it. I definitely completely get it.
Absolutely. That's why I'm saying it's often a good idea to go and take a look at competing packaging. Go take a look at what other people are doing in the same category of product to see what kind of inspiration you can get from them. You know, see what they're doing. You know, that might help. That's all I'm saying. Oh, and by the way, she's making an error here. She has which is no problem. She can have this flap white because it's a folding inside flap. She can have this flap white because it's a folding inside flap. That's the glue flap. She can have it white. But can you tell me what's wrong with those 3 flaps? What's wrong with them? There's something wrong with them. What's wrong with them?
I'm not really sure. I see. It looks like the trim is a little bit off.
Nope, that's not it. She stops her color right on the fold.
So she has. Okay, if she's going to do that, she needs to
go a little bit further.
Go a little bit further.
She has to make that color go a little tiny bit, at least a little tiny bit onto that. Why? Because if the printer prints these things, and he prints many, many, many of them, sooner or later he's going to hit the fold wrong. And if you have that color right there, and if he hits the fold a little bit too far this way, or I should say this way, you're going to have white on that top, and you're going to have to throw them boxes away. So by having a slight bit of bleed onto that panel, which you can do because it's an inside flap no one's going to really care about. You don't see it when you look at the package on the shelf. And it's the same thing over here. You don't want it to hit right on that fold. You want it to go just slightly past the fold. Same here. You don't want it to hit that fold. You want it to go a little bit past the fold. So those things have to be done because it's a production thing.
Got it.
All right. So that's that one. And we talked about this one. And let's go file open. I think we got one more to look at here. Come on. Jumpy. Here we go. Let's go. Week 3 for critique. And this is for Brianne. Let's open this one up. Okay, see now here, let's go. Let's fit that. Now you see here, Brianne has done a lot better. She has her color bleeding. You see how her color bleeds a tiny bit onto her glue flap?
Yes.
Okay, you see how her color goes all the way down her panel? Doesn't have to, but it can. She has her color going all the way down the panel here. Again, doesn't have to, but she does. She doesn't have her bleed here, though. She's got to get her bleed out here, and that's probably okay, although it cuts it a little bit close right there. She should probably somehow extend that color like that one. But she needs to extend that color over to the bleed and that color over to the bleed. And she's there, she's okay there, she's okay there. That color's got to come over to that bleed. And she should try to extend these a little bit. She has Cool Breeze, designer quality fragrance on the front, and she's repeated it on the back. She does have a bit of a hole there, but she has got some kind of a color thing going on. So you see, it's less, oh, and by the way, that manufactured by Cool Breeze fragrances, you'll notice that that's behind the graphic. Can you see how that's behind the graphic? See the graphic?
Yes.
See how the manufacturer's behind it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she's got to move that copy to the front. Just move that copy up to the front so it's not behind that graphic. And I think the same thing's going on here. I think she's got to move this copy to the front so it's in front of the graphic. Otherwise, the graphic will get in the way of, you can see it very clearly here. See the MANU and see that? See how it's over top of that MAN?
Yes.
Yeah, so that has to be moved forward. And she probably has the same thing going on up here. It looks like she's done the same thing. So she should make sure that all of her fonts, all of her type is on a higher a higher level. Now she's also making the same mistake that the other one made. She has here ingredients, flush left and rag right, which looks good. See how it looks right? Then she comes to the front panel and she has that centered. And I know that she wants everything to be neat and all, but that's just not the way to do it. She needs to flush left, rag right it, because this is not visually very nice. I mean, you just don't do that with a lot of copy. You just and again, over here, I would probably do something similar with that, or make it very small, you know, make that very small. But this definitely, I'd go flush left, rag right, or if she wants, she could justify it. You know what justifying is, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, she can either justify it if she wants, or she can go flush left, rag right. I don't think having it centered like that reads very well. I mean, if it were a poem or something, maybe you could get away with it, but this isn't a poem, and I know what she's trying to do is she's trying to make it fit nicely within the flow of this, but it just doesn't, it's not what she wants to do. I would definitely not have her do that. And she's also a little bit close here. She probably could make all of this slightly smaller. This could go a little smaller. I'd like to see more clearance. It's a little bit closer than I'd like to see. She's got nice clearance here, nice clearance here, nice clearance here and here. This is nicely cleared. So, you know, again, and there's no problem with this, except again, this graphic is on a higher level than it should be. She's got this cool stuff going on. I actually like her graphics on this. I think it helps. I just think that she has to change the stacking order. You know, when you work in Adobe Illustrator, you've heard the term stacking order, right, Tamara?
Yes.
Yeah, so stacking order essentially is, you know, the level of your piece of art. So she has this graphic thing that she's employing on her box on a higher level than her fonts. So what happens is it appears in front of the fonts. That's not what she wants. She wants to move that to a lower level so that the fonts actually block out that stuff and the stuff doesn't block out the fonts. That's what she wants to do. It should be an easy fix. All she has to do is find the layer in her layers panel. She finds the layer. As a matter of fact, I'll take a look at it in Illustrator. Let me do that. Let's go File, Open, and let's see what we got here. Let's go to Design Packaging. Here we go. Let's go to week 3, and for Peak, and I think it's Millick right here. Brienne. Finally, barcode, ignore. Here we go. Okay, let's zoom in on this guy. And let's take a look in our layers panel. Okay, so here, artwork. Artwork. Okay, so all the artwork is right there. So she's got all these things here. There's one of them. Boy, she's got it. She's got it all on one layer. Oh, boy. Yeah.
Okay, and that's a problem. She shouldn't have everything on one layer.
Well, like for instance, and also, see what's happening here? See what happened here?
Yeah.
The moment I bring this in, because I don't have the font, I lose all the font. But here's the copy. That's not the offending copy. Let me go down. Here's one of the copies. There. That's one of the offending copies. Let me open this up. And let's see. Let me find that one, the manufactured one. Hold on. Let me see if I can find that one. Where are you? You see it? Cool Breeze. Would that be it? Yeah. Okay, watch what happens now. I'll just do this real quick so that you can see. That's the manufactured one. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag this all the way up to the top. Watch this. All the way up to the top. Now, you see what it did?
It brought it to the front.
Exactly. And by bringing it to the front, it now doesn't have that graphic thing in front of it interfering with reading it. It's actually, you know, reading, or the stacking order is higher, so it's reading over top of the graphic. The graphic isn't reading over top of the font. So what she needs to do is anywhere that she has those graphics, like here's another one right over here. Somewhere in here is that. And that's not it. Hold on, let me see. Here, I think that's it. Yep, there it is. Okay, so I would do the same thing with this. I'd click on that, and I would drag that up to the top right there. And you don't really get there. You can't see it because it's got that font. You know, the font's not reading properly. But I moved it up to the front, and now it's no longer behind that graphic. The graphic's behind it, and it reads properly. So that's what she would have to do to actually fix that. It's not a big deal to fix. It's just a matter of changing the stacking order to make those fonts the top level fonts. So she fixed that. Maybe come up with something for the top here, and you know, fix a couple of little areas where the colors are not bleeding enough. You got to bleed that color over to here. Just a couple of little minor tweaks on this, and change the font from, let's see what this would look like. Let me see what this would look like if I changed it to, I can't. Yeah, I can't. It's not going to let me do it. She's going to have to fix that. But that's basically it for her. I think hers is actually pretty nice. And I think that with hers, creating these little icy looking, it looks sort of like ice, little, you know, ice patches on a pane of glass or something. I think it actually helps quite a bit to fill in the package, and it works kind of nicely. What do you think, Tamara?
Yeah, I agree.
And she worked with colors. Now here's what she's doing is tricky, because again, what she's doing is she's putting a color on that panel, and a color on that panel, and a color on that panel, and a color on that panel. So in this particular case, the printer is going to have to be extremely careful with this, because she deliberately is putting different or alternating color on the panels. So it's going to have to be done very carefully. The printer will take a little bit of extra care with this packaging to make sure he folds it properly, because go back to the problem I was saying, you know, if you don't do this correct, what happens is, you know, the box shifts, and then you'll have color on one of the panels. So this guy, when he produces this, is going to have to be a little bit more careful with it because of the nature of it. All right? Any comments or anything you want to add to this?
Not really. Like you said, the overall layout is good.
Yeah.
I think she has good placement, like you said, good clearance, and I like her choice of color. I like the choice of font. It's really clean, and it represents the product well.
Yeah. I see one other little thing. She probably should be a little more careful. Here's the logo. Let me go to the view menu. Let's go to guides, and let's go show guides. Oops, she's got a lot of guides here. Let's go to the view menu. Let's go to guides, and let's clear them. All right, so whoops. All right, so let's see. These guys are locked. They're on a layer that's locked. Let me open all these layers up. All right, let's go view, guides, clear guides. There we go. Okay. So I don't care if I unlock them. All right, so what I wanted to do is I just want to drag out a guide and place a guide right there. Okay, so that's on the money. Click on this and bring the guide to there. Okay, so here's the problem. The problem is that this is, I think, a little bit bigger than this one here. And that's why you'll see that one fits to that line, and that one's a little bit over or off. I think this logo is a little bit bigger than that one. So what she probably should do is actually just get rid of this logo and then copy this logo. Whoops, this logo naturally is going to be the one that's all taken apart. Jeez. I tell you, do I have the luck or what? It's going to be so much fun. Oh, look at this. This is murder. Oh, boy. All right. One more, and then that. Let's see. Yeah. Object group. All right, so I grouped it. So now I got it. This way I should be able to just click it. There we go. Okay. edit copy, edit paste in place, and then move it over onto your other panel and center it nicely on your panel. I'm just basically roughly doing it. But what I'm getting at here, go to View menu and Guides, Clear Guides. What I'm getting at is the logo should be exactly the same size from panel to panel, and it should occupy the exact same space. It should be equally balanced front and back.
It looks like the logo on the third panel is just a smidge bigger than the one that's on the first.
You mean this one here?
Yeah.
Well, it isn't anymore because I actually copied and pasted this one over there.
Okay.
So on the original, it was. On the original, this one was a slight bit different than this one. But I just fixed that by copying and pasting it onto that one. So it's now the exact same size as one another. They're exactly the same size and they're in the same position because I used one and I copied it and pasted it, moved it over there, and they're now the same size. What may be happening, it might be an optical illusion because you're seeing extra blue up here. You're thinking maybe that this is in a slightly different position and it might make this look smaller or out of place. That could be what's going on now. But they're in the same position now. Watch when I drag a guide out, put the guide right at the baseline of that designer. See, they sit in the same place. And they are the same size now. But they weren't. That's what I pointed out. You know, so you're talking about just a few subtle little things here to improve this a little bit. And again, you know, something up here, maybe just enlarging that graphic and putting it upside down up there. And, you know, I don't know, maybe something in here, if you could think of some kind of a nice little graphic to put in there. My feeling is you might be surprised if you go and you take a look at product in a market. You may find some really good ideas for something that you could put in these spots. But just keep in mind, guys, that when you do these projects like this, you know, you're dealing with a customer who wants information on their packaging. They really do. They're spending a lot of money and they're saying, I want stuff on the surfaces of my box. Oh, and by the way, this one here is missing the barcode. There's the the barcode didn't show up. That's what it is.
I totally missed that.
Yeah. Well, it came up now that I think about it. I remember it coming up saying it couldn't find the barcode because it's a linked resource. She didn't embed it. Do you know how to embed things like this? Have you ever done that, Tamara?
Yes.
You know where to go to do it?
You go to your file panel and place embedded and you drag it in.
Links panel.
Oh, you can go to
the links panel
too?
Yeah, links panel. See that little message right there, that little triangle with the exclamation point?
Yeah.
That's telling me that it don't know where that barcode ping is. That's what that's telling me. And I could go in and I could relink it, but I don't have that on my computer. If she had embedded this when she made it and sent it. But see, again, just so that you understand, I'm opening this up in Illustrator so I could play with it a little bit. I'm asking for trouble. When I open this up in Illustrator, I'm asking for these problems because, you know, these were not really prepared for me to open in Illustrator. I'm doing it to make a few points, to just point out some stuff. But I'm not faulting any of the students for not doing this because I don't think any of them really truly expected that I would open them up in here. So it's my fault, and if I really intended to do this, I would have made it clear how I wanted you to do it so that it would make sense for me to do this. I'm just doing this because I'm trying to talk about these things, and it's easier for me to actually open them up and fool with them a little bit to make a point. That's why I'm doing it. So, you know, when these things happen, I'm not too upset. But, you know, I started to point out that there was no barcode, but in fact, she has a barcode. So she has it. So really the only thing that I would ask her to consider in this is that she adjusts the copy. I just don't like the center aligned text. I don't think it reads very well, and I don't think it's a good way to go here, especially when you have some copy that's flush left and then you have some that's center align. Either go flush left, center align, or go justified all the way. I wouldn't go justified because you got this. So I would go flush left, rag right, and try to make it as tight a rag as you can. Do the same thing here. Flush left, rag right would be much better. And then see what you can come up with for here. If you can't, you can't. But I would take a look at it and see what you could come up with. What you might do is you might actually show a small section of the bottle. You know, when you create the bottle, you might actually show the bottle, part of the bottle on that back panel. That's another way to go. And there's a way that you could do it so that you could make a opacity mask. Tamara, have you ever made an opacity mask before?
Yeah, I did it in one of my earlier classes. I don't remember exactly how to do it, but I've done it before.
Use it. You do it the same way you'd make a clipping mask. You basically create a shape, but instead of having just a shape that clips, you're going to have a gradient in the shape in front of the object, and where there is white, it will hide, and where there's black, it will show. White conceals, black reveals. That's the way that works. And that's called a opacity mask. So if I created a bottle, let's say I created a bottle. Let me just do it with a rectangle. Let's see if I can do a real quick demonstration of this. So let me create a shape just like that. All right, and let me move it over here. So if I wanted that to appear there, but what I wanted to do is I wanted it to go ghost out down at the bottom. Let me go edit copy, edit paste in place, and I'm going to select this thing, and I'm going to apply a gradient to it. I'm going to apply a gradient. Let's see if I can go to my gradients here. Gradient. There we go. Okay, so let me do this. Let me make it 90 degrees. Let's see. 90? Yeah. Let me do this, and let me drag this guy a little bit deeper. I want it up. Now, you know what? I think let's go edit undo. Edit undo gradient. Okay, what I want to do is I want to drag this down a little bit. That's what I want. There we go. Like that, okay? But I want to make sure that this goes to white. There we go. Okay, so you see what I did? I have a gradient sitting in front of my my color thing. So I'm going to, let's see if I can object, lock, selection. Okay, let's see if I can select just these two. Oh, geez, edit, undo move, object, lock, selection. I have to lock a few things because I don't want to drag them. Did I get that? Object, lock, selection. Now let's try it. Let's see if I can just grab those two. Got it. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my window. I'm going to go to transparency, and I'm going to make opacity mask. See it? From the transparency panel, make opacity mask. Okay, so you see what happened here? I actually have it backwards. So let's reverse it. Invert mask. There. Okay, so you see what an opacity mask does? See what it did?
Okay, so this panel has a little color, but it allows you to still see the text.
What it does is it allows me, to use the gradient. Let me move it over so you can see it better. It allows me to use the gradient to mask out a portion of the background art. So if I created a bottle shape in here, I could put the bottle shape in there, and then I could place it in back of the text, all right, like to here, and I could bring that text to the front, object, arrange, bring to front, and now I have this bottle which kind of appears, it sort of appears out of nothing behind the text. That's essentially, and I did that by using an opacity mask. So that's another thing that you may consider.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I only used a rectangular shape because I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. But you see how it works? The opacity mask is making that shape. All right. Watch when I hide this. Disable opacity mask. See what it did? That's the shape. Now I disabled the mask. The mask isn't showing. So with the mask disabled, that's what my original piece looked like. Now if I go back in here and enable it, that's the mask causing that art to disappear when it hits the white. So the black reveals, the white conceals. See it?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's, you know, you could do something like that where you have a bottle. Maybe actually do your bottle and actually put and the other thing you could do is you could bring it in here, and after you do this, and actually, let's see, I think I edit, undo, move. Edit, undo, move. Yeah, I have to select both of them. There we go. Maybe I got it now. No, I don't. Oh, boy. Edit, undo, move. All right, well, anyway, what I could do is just to show you, you could also go into transparency, and you could come in here, and you have to click back on this guy, I think. That's what it is. Now you can come in here, and you could either use a blend mode with it, you know, you can multiply it, or like multiply it, all right? Or you can use transparency to make it transparent. So you can make it lighter. See? Bring it down, and now you've got a ghost of the bottle. And that's literally, I go back to normal, okay? That's literally 50%. You're now making it even more ghosted out. See? See that?
Yes, I see what you did.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are things that you could do. You just got to be creative with it, okay? So let me get out of here because I got one other thing I want to show you real quick. This guy, I think we're done with. We talked about it. Oh, no, I'm going to leave this open for a minute. All right, so here's what I wanted it to do. I want to go back to explain to you that I kind of like what he did with his background. He's got this wood color, which is kind of just a brown, and then he's got this sort of like texture thing going on that makes it look like wood. I thought to myself, you know, he could have taken this a step further, and he could have actually made, see that wild, oh, and by the way, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Let me do this first. Do you see how he has Wild Bill going sideways like that?
Yes.
Instead of having it go across like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I like the idea that Wild Bill's is really big like that. Don't get me wrong. I like it. The problem is that when the box is put together, it's kind of what you might consider a wild card element. The problem with that element being like that is that when the customer gets to it, it sort of stops them. It creates a block in their perception of the package. They suddenly see this big Wild Bill that's like not in the same direction as everything else, and it kind of takes away from the overall design of the box. Now, if the box was oriented so it laid, like if you've ever seen a toothpaste box, you'll notice that toothpaste boxes usually, you look at them from the side. Do you know what I'm talking about? You ever seen a toothpaste box?
Yes.
Toothpaste box, when you look at them, you don't look at them standing up like a building. You have to lay down, right? So if you were going to do that with this box, which don't make sense because this is not toothpaste, this is a bottle, and you tend to stand the bottle up, so you tend to orient your box this way. To have this doing this is not the right orientation for this. So one of the things that I had him do is modify it because I just didn't think that it was a good solution for this particular thing. I don't like to introduce things like that. Now, with that being said, he also has this copy here. I asked him to reverse that, which he did. Let's go back to him. Let's go to, yeah. Okay, so you see what he did? He changed the back. and he changed this. I did tell him that the nutritional facts he could leave on the side, okay? Originally, this is how he had his nutritional facts. And I told him two things. I told him that the nutritional facts should have a white background against it. It shouldn't be against that brown background. So he did add the white background. I also told him that he must make it smaller, which he did. Actually, he made it bigger. Yeah, he should fix that. He don't want to make it bigger. He wants to make it smaller. That's something else he needs to do. Makes it a little bit smaller. But he has a white background. That's what I asked him to do. I told him that I really wanted to see this copy not sideways like he has it here. Okay? But I wanted to see it like that, which he did. And I told him that the wild bill had to be, the orientation had to be changed, which he fixed. So, you know, again, this is all, the reason I'm saying this is because when you look at this, it just isn't right. It's not the way it should be presented. It's a wild card. It is a step too far. It's something that kind of the person who's looking at this package will turn around and see that. And then in order to really read it, they have to reorient the box. And you don't want them to do these things. You want the person to look at the box, spin it around, get the information cleanly and quickly, make a decision to take the box and not put it back on the shelf, but to put it in their cart. And everything that you do with your package should be geared towards having that occur. So you don't want to give them anything to think about. The moment they start thinking is when you could lose them. Does that make sense to you when I say that? You understand the basic premise that I'm saying here? You don't want to do anything that's going to have them stop and question anything. You want them to read through it and go, ah, this is what I want. Boom, in the cart it goes.
Yep, I understand.
So that's what I had him do on that. All right, now you were talking about, before we go, and I want to show you something about this texture, but before we go and do that, you were talking about this right here and how he put a stroke on this, right?
Right.
And you
kind of disappeared for me because I wear glasses, and so.
Yeah, you I think very correctly pointed out that the way he put the stroke on that text is incorrect. Did you notice that? You did point that out, right?
Yes.
Okay, and what's happening is, so that I can explain it to everybody, because I'll demonstrate it in a minute. One of my last weeks, I explained this, I showed this. When you create text and you put strokes on the text, if you stroke anything, like a box, let me just come over here and make a quick box and I'll show you. So here's a box, right? Now, let me put a very large stroke on the box. Okay, there's your box. Take a look at the line. You see the line? The line is the vector. That's the actual shape. And notice that when you put a stroke on it, and I have a 10-point stroke on that box, notice that half of that stroke goes on the inside of the vector and half of it goes on the outside. I mean, there's no way you can't see that, right? Can you see what's going on there?
Yeah, I see what's going on.
Right. So when you have a box like this now, your box is 5 points all the way around smaller on its front surface. Well, the same thing happens with your type here. If I clicked on this type, and let's say I add a 4-point stroke or a 5-point stroke, look what happens. The stroke has literally eaten up the entire surface of the fill, which is a red color. Now watch, I'm going to back this down. 4, 3, 2. Look it. There's a 2-point stroke. You see what's happening? It looks terrible. I mean, that is not the way this should look. But there's a way that you can put strokes on type properly. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove the stroke on this thing, and I'm going to show you how to properly stroke this. So I have a fill of red on this. There's my fill right there. I'm going to go to the window menu, and I'm going to open up my appearance panel. Now, the appearance panel right there gives me type, characters, and opacity. There's nothing going on in the panel yet because I haven't started using it. I am going to instruct the panel to put a new stroke on this. So by coming here to the drop-down menu, I'm going to add a new stroke. Now I've added a new stroke, and this stroke is black. But I think, what did he have? White? What was the color he had on there before? Do you remember?
It looked like the stroke was like this orange color around the red. So
well, let's see what we got in here. He's got that orange color. So that's what he had, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that actually looks pretty much like what he had. So what's happening is a 1-point stroke. So a half a point of the stroke is oversetting the face, which is the fill. Now, right here in this appearance panel, he has no fill color yet. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to instruct it to be that red color. So now I have actually got a fill of red and a stroke of orange in my appearance panel, and my stroke is on top of my fill, so it looks like this. And what I want to do is I want to make it so that I have a stroke, but I have a good face, and the face is always going to be the dominant feature of that text. To do that, all you got to do in the appearance panel is drag the fill up in front of the stroke. So now, as you can see here, I got a beautiful face of red, don't I? Why is that happening, Tamara? Do you have any idea why that's happening?
You said you brought the fill to the front and you kind of pushed the stroke to the back. So
yes.
You made.
So what's happening? What's happening?
Now the fill is the dominant element instead of the stroke.
It's the top element. It's the front element. It's covering up the stroke on the inside part of the vector. The fill is actually sitting on top of it. So the only thing that you are seeing, this is a 1-point stroke. So all you're seeing here, Tamara, is a half a point of stroke. You're not seeing a 1-point stroke. You're seeing a half-point stroke because the half point is on the outside, the other half point's on the inside, and we have moved the fill up in front of the stroke, hiding the inside of the stroke. Watch when I click that eyeball. You see? See the difference?
Yeah.
Now, right there is how you make beautifully stroked lettering. If you want to make your lettering stroked proper in Adobe Illustrator, right there is how you do it. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make that stroke a little bit bigger. This is what I think, this is the effect I think he's going for. Right now what you're seeing is a 2-point stroke. But because this surface is covering up half of that stroke, that's not what you're seeing. That's what you would be seeing if I didn't do this. But since I've moved this fill up in front of it, that is what you're seeing. Now you've got a beautiful, clean, precise stroke all around your letters, and the surface, the front surface, has not been messed with whatsoever. Can you remember that?
Yep, absolutely.
This is very important. I think this is one of the most important things I can teach you in here, because this is something that people want to use a lot, putting stroke around type. And when you're in Adobe Illustrator, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. What I just showed you is the right way to do it. That's how you do it, okay? So let me go to the View menu, to the Artboard and Window. That's that. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is this. So he has wild bills, okay? And he has that panel right there, that red panel. The wild bill just looks like printed material, right? It just looks like it's printed in orange over top of that background. And this panel right here, this orange panel, just looks like a flat orange panel. Well, what if I wanted to do something a little more exciting? What if I wanted to make that text and that panel look very much like it was actually painted on the wood? How do you think we would do that? In other words, I wanted, see the grain, that grain there? I wanted that grain to be over top of this as well. How do you think I might do that? Do you have any ideas?
Not a clue. Well, I don't know. I guess you could use I guess you could do like a little transparency mask or something.
Well, here's what you could do. I don't know whether this is going to work. Let me go to the view menu and hide edges. This is the first thing that I would do. And let's go to the view menu and let's go to hide bounding box. So this thing is still selected, view show edges. Okay? It's still selected, view hide edges. So the one thing that you could do, and this may or may not work, you could try blend modes. So you come in, darken it, that doesn't work. So multiply won't work. It does, but it doesn't work the way I want it to work. Color burn doesn't work. Let's come in here and let's go to lighten. Doesn't work. So I'm not getting the effect that I'm looking for. Screen. A little bit it works, but it doesn't quite work. Color dodge. Beginning to work, but not exactly what I'm looking for.
That looks more like a brand.
Like a what?
Like branded on.
Yeah, well, that's what what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it look sort of like it's painted on a rough surface of wood. That's what I'm trying. That's the look I'm going for. And this is the closest so far, but it isn't quite right. Let's try overlay. See, again, this isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. Getting closer, though. Let's try soft light. That's not what I'm looking for. It's not the look. Hard light, not the look. So it's apparent that I'm not going to get there with it. Nope, that's not right. Not getting there. See, just isn't working. Nothing is really working. So I can't do this. Let's go back up to normal. All right, so then what do? Let me show you. I'm going to come in here. There it is. That's the look I'm going for. You see what I did? Look at that. You see it?
No, what did you do?
I'm going to show you how I did this. It's incredibly easy. I mean, it's nuts how easy this is. First of all, let me get rid of the links panel, and let me hide the transparency. What's this? This is appearance. Let me move the appearance over here. And this is the gradient. Let's move that over there. Let's take a look at the layers. So here's the layers. This is my graphics. Okay, that's the gourmet hot sauce. These are my graphics right there. Okay, so what did I do here? How did I do this? Let me go into my start. So here's what I did. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to open this guy up, and I believe that's my layer. Okay, that's my clipping layer. On this clipping layer, okay, on this clipping layer is a pattern. Let me hide the background. You see the pattern?
Yeah, I see the pattern.
That's the pattern that he made to go over top of his graphics, okay, this background. And the background color is the bottom layer right there, and the clipping mask is right there on top of or in front of that background color. So that's why you're getting that look. What I want to do is I want to get that pattern to go in front of this and this. All I have to do is click on this guy and drag it up in front of, and look at that. Now, let's go back to my other one. And
what layer did you put to the front?
He has a clipping layer. This layer, watch when I close this. He has, this is the graphic that he created, okay? He created this graphic.
Right.
And the graphic essentially are just these lines so that you get wood texture. So he did that, made them longer. See how I made them all longer? And then he used the shape. There's the shape right here. See the red line? He used that shape as a clipping mask. And he clipped that pattern. See? He clipped it. There's extra pattern out there. See it? If you look all around, there's extra pattern. And that's because he clipped it. He clipped it to that shape. So that's why it's called clipping mask. And what I did was, originally the clipping mask was sitting right here in front of the background only. So when you open this up and open this up, you don't see the pattern in front of it. What I did so that you could see the pattern in front of these objects as well as this was I just simply clicked on that, dragged it up in front of those two other objects, and now they are in front of those two objects. And now it looks almost like these are painted on a wood plank.
Yeah, that. Like you said, that was incredibly easy.
Yeah, it's he has all the elements there already. In other words, his clipping mask was there. The work is done, and it was just in this position right here. See? So now the only thing that's being affected by the clipping mask is that background color. What I wanted to do, I wanted to include these elements into the clipping mask as well, so that these elements no longer just look like, that doesn't look like a flat mortised out piece. And this doesn't look like type that's been painted over it in an opaque way. What I was going for is I was looking for something that would enable me to make this look more like it was painted on the wood surface, and you're seeing a little bit of the wood texture. So by dragging the clipping mask all the way up to the top, I now have that happening. Now I can go into my clipping mask if I want, and I can go into my window menu, and let me open up my transparency, and I can see if I can play around with, let me click on this, and let's see in the transparency, let's see if I can change this luminosity. That didn't quite work. Let me see what we got. Let's go to darken. Let's go to multiply, go to color burn. I'm getting an orange color there that I'm not crazy about. It's opacity. Let's see what happens. Yeah, he has it set down to a level, a light. He wants it to be light. I think what I did here, let me see. Yeah, I think what I did here is I changed the color. That's what it is. I think when I did this, see, his is brown. Mine, I changed to black. Oh, no, but it isn't. It's brown. How did I do that? How did I get this? I'll multiply 20%. How did I get that? Let me see if I can figure this one out. Now, let's see what we got. Brown. So let me double click on this guy and let me make it black. Let's see what that does. Okay. Now, let's try it now. There we go. You see how that took that orange out of there?
Okay, so you made the
I'll do it again. I'll do it again. Watch. Here's what I did. All right, so I'm going to lock this layer, and this layer, and I'm just going to leave the clipping mask layer open. This is a clipping group, okay? So in order for me to get inside the clipping group, I have to double click it. Now I have all those things selected. See how I went inside the clipping mask group?
Right.
Okay, so this is selected. These are all selected. I go back out. There. This should all be selected, all those things. See how they're fills of brown?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Double click on this, and instead of making it that color brown, I just clicked and dragged that down to make it black and hit OK. And now when I come back out, I didn't get it. Let me try it again. I didn't get it. There we go. I think I got it now. Let's try it now. Now let's make that black. And hit OK. And yeah, now I did it. Come back out. And now, nope, I still didn't get it. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see something here. Hold on. Let me see what I did here. Let's go to transparency, overlay. Let me go back and make it normal. Let's try it now. There we go. There we go. See how I did it? I had to change. He had it set to overlay, and I had to set it back to normal. So it's normal 20%, and actually it's probably a little bit stronger than I would like it to be. So let me come back in here and click it again and see it's 100%. Let me bring it down to like say around 60. Around 60 might be good. So I'm just playing with it a little bit is what I'm doing. There we go. See that? See that? So what I end up with is, instead of a panel, where's his original? Yeah, instead of that text looking like that, which just all that looks like is you know, like you actually painted over that board with opaque. It's like opaquely painted over. It's the same thing with this panel right here. It's opaquely painted over. The end result that I have is that now I got that texture showing over top of that background, and I got a little bit of texture over top of that text, which gives it kind of more of a Western-y kind of look. And I'm actually utilizing that texture to a greater degree by doing that. Did that make sense to you, what I mean, what I did here?
Yeah, that made a lot of sense.
So really what this whole thing comes down to when you're working with Adobe Illustrator is, if you're familiar with Adobe Photoshop, a lot of what makes Photoshop work are layers and how layers work. When you're in Adobe Illustrator, a lot of that layering stuff that appears to make things work in Photoshop also can make things work in Illustrator. The way you put things on layers, the way you group things together on layers means an awful lot. One more thing I'll show you real quickly is my box graphics. Let me go to my box graphics here. Here we go. Go to my box graphics. Okay, so layers. Go back to layers. This is what we're going to look at Wednesday night. This is my box. So I'm going to talk about my box. And I already demonstrated how to take my graphic, which is my symbol. Let me find my symbols panel. I don't think I have it out. Symbols, where are you at? Right there. Oh, I hit the wrong one. Window, symbols, there. All right, so you see how I got two symbols in here? I got that symbol right there, which is the front of my box. Do you remember me showing you that?
Yes.
And you remember me showing you how I put that on my extrude?
No, I don't remember that, but I remember you showing
I'll do
that.
it again. I don't have enough time to do it now. I'll do it again Wednesday night. This is the side panel. This is, hold on. Here we go. I got too much open. Let me close this out. I'm done with this. Yeah, I think that's what the problem is. We got too much going on here. Too many things. Okay, so there, this is my side panel. Okay, the side panel does have a graphic shape on it. It's not showing. But anyway, this is my side panel. So what I wanted to do with this is, let me just back out. I extruded the box. Here we go again with the extrude. This is something that you'll encounter with this because it's 3D and it has a tendency of having to regenerate itself anytime you have 3D. Give it a second. Okay. So on this one, this is actually a 3D box. And what I did with this was I rendered the box. Let me go to the layers panel and unlock that. I think it's a sample box. Yeah, unlock that. So what I did with this is I rendered this. See it? You see the box where it's rendered from?
Yep, okay. I'm with you.
This guy here is a rendered box too. But the difference between this box and this box is this. Watch. Move that out of the way. This box, I actually distorted the front of the box onto the face of this box. Whereas this, I applied it in my 3D environment. Okay? I also did the same thing with this side. So let me go edit undo. All right? And this is what I want to show you. I'm going to try to distort this thing onto the side of the box as well now. Okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pre-distort tool and the free transform tool, and I'm going to use the distort filter. And I'm going to click this, and I'm just going to place that right there at about the top. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to place that. Start off by placing that one down at the bottom, like that. Then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to grab this guy, and I'm going to place this guy right up there, like that. And then I'm going to take this guy, and I'm going to drag this guy in, and I'm going to distort it like this, okay? And then I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to get it in proper position, which is about like that. Okay, and then I'm going to just play around with these corners until I get it about where I want it to be. And I think I want this to come down a little bit and in, like about like that. Give me a second. I would have probably been better off if I made this bigger, but I think it'll be all right. I'll get it like about like that. That's probably good. Okay, now look it. There, see that? I've actually distorted this thing onto the side of the box. See that? So this one, I actually created symbols and I applied these guys to the box in my 3D environment, which I'll do this again. I'll go through this again. This is what I'm going to work on Wednesday night. I'll work on this Wednesday night with you guys so that you can see me do this again. And we'll also talk about my label right there. So we'll talk about my label Wednesday night, and we'll go back over this a little bit again to make sure that you understand how to put your graphics on the box. Okay?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Any final comments or anything you want to discuss before we call it a night?
No, actually, nope.
Okay. The other thing I'm going to show you is, I'm going to close this. No. Close this. No. Close this. And no. And the other thing I'm going to show you Wednesday night is this. I want to show you how I applied my label to my bottle because it's tricky. And I want to show you how I did it. Because it's, unless you see me do this, because there's different shapes here. See, there's this shape right here. Watch when is that locked? Hold on, let me see. It is. Let me unlock these. Okay, there's this shape right here. Look at it. There's that shape right there. Okay, see that shape right there? That's actually the label shape. That's the shape that I'm putting the label on. The label has to go around the outside of the box. This is my bottle, and my bottle is partially transparent, so you could see my contents inside, which is that's my contents inside. So in order to get this to look like that, I have to create a third shape, which is just this shape right here. Let's go edit undo. Okay, I have to create that shape right there. The problem is when I create that shape, it wants to go in a circle like this. And I get that back thing right there, which doesn't work. So there's a technique I have to use to get rid of that part of the shape to make it do that. And I am going to demonstrate how I do that on Wednesday night as well. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what we're going to do Wednesday. Are you good with what I showed you tonight? Did I cause your head to explode at any point, or was I okay?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
If I have any questions, like I said, I'll just review the lecture or shoot you an email.
Yeah, I also am available Wednesday night from 7 o'clock until 11 Mountain Time, and on Saturday night from 7 o'clock until 12 Mountain Time, and that's in Blackboard. Okay? So if that's it, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to stop recording, I should say.